What's going on, everybody? Critic and the Common Man here. You can see a very cleanly shaved face Critic.
Yes,
and
that's right.
A masked Mandalorian.
Clearly a
Common
Mandalorian.
Man.
Clearly.
We will be joining you guys today with a review of The Mandalorian Chapter 11. I know you might be thinking, wait a second, what happened to 9 and 10? Well, funny story. Apparently our technology hates us here at the Critic and the Common Man because we recorded a review of episode 9 and 10, and we lost all of our files. So we didn't want to re-record it because it just feels weird and it doesn't feel authentic.
It's not genuine.
Yeah, we're jumping in at Chapter 11, so we're starting fresh. Not too far behind. We apologize for that. I know a couple people have asked why we hadn't been doing reviews. We had done reviews, that is why. So we are back. It's working this time. We are good to go. The Mandalorian Chapter 11, The Heiress. It's just come out. So, with everything Critic and the Common Man, this is a full review. Spoiler warning. If you are for some reason watching this review before you watched Chapter 11, click off of this, go watch Chapter 11, come right back, and we'll discuss it together. Chris, this is definitely going to be a little bit more your territory talking about Chapter 11 because I feel like this is where they're starting to bring in some characters from the extended universe a little bit, some characters from things that are not necessarily Star Wars canon, some things that if you have just watched the original main Star Wars movies that have come out, you're probably not going to know who some of these characters are.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's the direction The Mandalorian is heading, which I am okay with.
Yeah.
Quick recap before we get too far into this. So as you guys remember, the Mandalorian and the child basically crash land on this planet with Frog Lady to try and deliver her eggs and herself to her husband who's supposed
Frog
to be
Lady
there.
and her delicacies in a jar.
Yes, Frog Lady and her...
Caviar.
Oh, yeah, caviar. Yep, Frog Lady and her caviar. Exactly.
We're good people.
They find Frog Man. It's a happy ending, so you think. Not so fast. So... This episode, I think a lot of people, like I was saying, my guess is that some people didn't like this episode, and I think the reason why people maybe wouldn't have liked Chapter 11 is because, again, if you're not super familiar with like the Clone Wars or the animated series, you're not gonna, you might be a little bit lost here, and myself included, because you've rubbed off on me a lot with information because you are definitely more of the Star Wars expert than I am. But there's things that are happening here. There's characters you're getting introduced to that you can tell are supposed to be significant. And if you don't know who Ahsoka is, and if you don't know who like that main Mandalorian woman is supposed to be,
Bo-Katan.
Bo-Katan, her relevance, I think people are going to see this as a filler episode and they're not going to like it. What did you think, just overall, big picture, what did you think of Chapter 11?
I think this is... And when we reviewed chapters 9 and 10... I said some things about how thus far The Mandalorian had mostly filler episodes and not a lot of story-driving episodes, which bothers me just from a writing and filmmaking point of view. This episode, Chapter 11, is everything The Mandalorian needed in every episode. Because not only are you have more questions, but at least the story is being pushed in a direction forward, not just stagnant and like, hey, the questions are still up in the air. You now are kind of I said this before. We know that he has to take the child somewhere. For a season and a half, we've gotten nothing out of him. In one episode, we still don't know where this kid is from, but we now have a direction. He's saying, I need to take them somewhere, and the Mandalorian said, hey, we can lead you to someone. And that should have been like the end of season 1.
Yeah, you kind of knew he was trying to take them to the Jedi, but now finally at the end of Chapter 11, you have Ahsoka. You have the Jedi that he's taking them to. That's a huge step
I didn't
forward
think
in
it was
the actual
Ahsoka
story.
at first. I thought they were talking about someone else, which
right.
If you watch the Rebels or the Clone Wars, you kind of get into a lot of the characters. But in Rebels, you meet Ezra Miller, who is like a scavenger. Like, of course, they're always scavengers. But he gets trained by a Jedi who made it out of Order 66. He was there like during the purge of the Jedi, and he made it out, lived his whole life as like a criminal, and then eventually met Ezra and saw that Ezra was strong with the Force and remembered all of the training he got from Obi-Wan and stuff and used that training to train Ezra. And Ezra's gone. We don't know what happened to him in the series. And the last person to see him alive was the girl that we saw with Bo-Katan in this. I'm assuming that was her, anyways. The one who we saw watching him from a distance.
Right, like with the hood on when he first landed on the planet. Yeah,
Sabine, Sabine Wren, who is a Mandalorian. She was the last one to hold the dark saber, the black saber. Which is why it's interesting that they're looking for it, and that's what they're looking for. They even mentioned it in this. So really, there's a lot of questions, even if you've never seen the series, right. As in like the animated series. There's questions, sure, but there's so much that's tying in all of the universes that they've built now that it's awesome. I freaked out, dude, and seeing the Mandalorians fight. That is the first time we have seen a live action Mandalorian action sequence.
Yeah,
and it was awesome.
Let's nerd out a little bit here for a second. So we're going to go into the lore a little bit just for a minute, you guys. So if this is something that you don't know about and you don't want to hear, like you think it's going to ruin something for you, then I would recommend maybe you skip forward a little bit. But just like, so first of all, who is Bo-Katan? Because am I mistaken, or does she have some sort of history with Obi-Wan?
She does, yeah.
So talk to the viewers about that a little bit, because I'm not super familiar with her story.
If I remember correctly, Obi-Wan was in love with Bo-Katan's sister, who passed away. I'd have to rewatch the series, but I'm pretty sure that her sister, Bo-Katan's sister, was like the queen of Mandalore, or the princess or something like that, and Obi-Wan and her had a thing, which personally I love, because I think it's a little strange to have Jedi and be like, hey, you can't have emotions. And the only time we ever see a Jedi with emotions is Anakin. He gives himself over to his emotions, and ultimately that's what leads him down this like dark path. But you see this in Obi-Wan now, who has a love interest and loses her, and that makes him more human, and that makes him more relatable, and somehow just adds to his character and adds to the flavor. And I think it's cool that they're kind of going through this. I also thought they might be talking about Obi-Wan, leading them to Obi-Wan.
Right. And to kind of bring this full circle, if you guys remember when the last Star Wars was about to come out and everybody was speculating who Rey was, the reason why a lot of people, if I'm not mistaken, Chris, and you can tell me if I am, but the reason why a lot of people thought Rey might be a Kenobi is because Obi-Wan had this secret fling kind of thing with either Bo-Katan or Bo-Katan's sister, whoever it ends up being. While Qui-Gon was gone or whatever. So again, just to kind of make this full circle, there's a lot of lore going on right now, and these characters intertwine in a way that if you've seen the animated series or the Clone Wars or anything, or Rebels, you're going to start to appreciate this, I think, on a little bit deeper level. And I'm interested because not everybody who's watching The Mandalorian, in fact, I'd say most people who are watching The Mandalorian have not seen the Clone Wars or Rebels. This is just the popular Star Wars show out there. And I will say
I've only seen it once through, so I could be completely wrong with everything I just said. I'm just remembering it.
No, I think I read something briefly, and I don't remember if Obi-Wan had history with Bo-Katan or if it was, like you said, her sister.
Well, they have
or whatever.
met before. Obi-Wan and Bo-Katan have met before.
Okay.
But I think it was like in a battle. I don't think it was in a romantic sense.
Gotcha.
I'm pretty sure. I'm like 99% sure the woman that Obi-Wan was in love with died.
Gotcha. Bo-Katan, of course, being, if this is way going over your head, Bo-Katan was the main Mandalorian woman who Din Djarin meets when he's on the boat. Then they come in to save him. That's the main woman. So, again, this is all starting to kind of come full circle here a little bit. Now we've gotten reference of Ahsoka at the end, so they're really intertwining this extended universe and kind of pulling the strings together, which I love. I'm all for it. But it's going to be interesting moving forward. A lot of these characters that they bring in, how much do they expect you to know about them from the other series, and how much are they going to actually tell you about them through the Mandalorian itself?
Yeah. Now also, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying that they also touched a little bit on Mandalorian lore in this episode too, where they talked like apparently there's this sect of Mandalorians that Din Djarin is a part of. That are trying to bring back the old ways, and it's interesting.
I'm trying to remember what not cult, but like what religious sect they said he was from.
They were basically creating like child soldiers and stuff.
Yes. Now this dark saber is more important than I think a lot of people realize too. This dark lightsaber that Moff Gideon, is that his name? That he cuts himself out of the TIE fighter with.
Yeah.
That's really relevant to Mandalorian culture also, isn't it?
Yeah, it belonged to a Jedi that was Mandalorian. And
I
it's like
gotcha.
it's like
And there's
super
only-
old. I think it's like 1,000 years old or something like that.
Right, and there's basically one of them, right? I mean, this
think
is
so.
not like every Mandalorian had one of these and they just want it back. It's like a helmet. This is like a sign of like a ruler.
Yeah.
This dark saber that they have is a huge symbol.
Yeah,
to these
there's different
Mandalorian.
things that happen with, depending on the Jedi, different things happen to the Kyber crystals. The reason that lightsabers turn red when a Sith uses them is because you're corrupting the quote-unquote soul of the crystal, and it corrupts it to the point that the crystal bleeds, and that's what turns the
Damn.
lightsaber red.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so it's yeah. Ahsoka, in her history, right after the Purge and everything happened, I think like a year or two later, she ends up fighting an Inquisitor, which you've seen in some of the video games and stuff. They're not Sith, but they're like a step below Sith. They're very hard to kill.
Okay.
She fights an Inquisitor and takes his lightsaber, breaks it open, takes the crystals out, and cleanses them and turns them into the white lightsabers that you see in her adult life, which is dope. So, yeah, there's just a lot of interesting stuff that kind of got hinted at this episode that I was totally nerding out about.
Yeah, They're for the diehard Star Wars fans like you, Chris, and me a little bit. I don't claim to be an expert by any means. I'm more of like the main movies kind of guy, but for the diehard Star Wars fans out here, I feel like The Mandalorian is really starting to develop in a way that people are gonna like.
Yeah.
Couple things that jumped out at me that were really cool about this episode. Number one, the ships / like crane things that we were seeing in this episode were awesome. So when they land, quote unquote, the Razor Crest, when they crash basically and go into the water, that like AT-AT-esque crane that picks them up looked fucking awesome. And then that freighter that they end up hijacking looked awesome as well.
Yes,
that
dude,
like
that
it was
looked
something
amazing.
Out of Halo.
That looked
that
so
looked
good.
really good. And I was happy with that because I feel like we don't get a lot of that anymore. Even with The Mandalorian, we don't get a lot of new ships or machines or droids. You don't see a lot of those things that end up looking really good. Very pleasantly surprised in this episode. Whoever the creative design was behind that, they had some not only gorgeous ships, but also just tech. The crane that picked him up was really cool. It looked like something just right out of a battle of some kind.
Did you see who directed this episode?
Yeah, dude, freaking Bryce Dallas Howard. That's unbelievable. I had no idea that she was involved in this.
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't know what's going on there. I guess she's
a
making
director
a jump into directing, but that's cool.
So, yeah.
What do you think about this one being? You've already kind of touched on it. So we talked about this in our chapter 9 and 10 review, which again we apologize that are never going to be able to go up. They're in the vault in the museum. But we talked about the idea that these are fillers, and this seems to be the fun thing to rip the Mandalorian about is, the episodes are just filler episodes. And I know that was a little bit of a complaint that you had with the first couple, not with this one. Personally, I don't mind it. I think when you're talking about a TV show, this is kind of the pace that you're going to get. A TV show that, we talked a lot in our 9 and 10 review about them dangling a carrot and us having to chase it, but them not letting us have it too early. They can't just give the child away 2 episodes into the season because then the show kind of dissolves for what people love it to be. I agree with you that this one at least story-wise pushed it forward, but I felt like what happened, the events that transpired in this episode were not as exciting as the last 2 to me. I didn't think them fighting on the boat was as exciting as them fighting the Crate Dragon, and I didn't think that them fighting on the boat was as exciting as them fighting the Ice Spiders. But I do see that this was a more relevant episode to actually push the story together.
Yeah, and I made this reference before with Game of Thrones and just how good the writing is in Game of Thrones, and I know you haven't seen it, but season 1 of Game of Thrones ends with a certain character being beheaded. That character's daughter, and I'm only being vague because I don't want to give anything away for people who have seen this or who haven't seen it, or potentially for you if you ever decide to watch it, which I think you should.
Right.
But this daughter basically makes a vow that she is going to avenge him for however long it takes. She does not get her revenge until the last season. So as a character, you know that her motive is get revenge, but it takes her 9 seasons to get there. And I love that because you get the idea that this is the end goal, but every decision she makes in each episode moving forward affects that end goal. And that's what I don't think is happening in The Mandalorian, that the filler episodes are just filler. There's no real character choice that is happening that is pushing the story forward, you know? It'd be different if in like the ice one, if you know, his decision to help this lady, which it did ultimately, that I kind of saw this happening, his decision to help the frog lady led to them going to this planet, which is why I didn't hate on that one so much. But the first episode of the season did nothing for us.
Yeah, it's true.
You could have taken that episode out of the story and started with the next one, and nothing would be different.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It could have started out basically with you know, him traveling to that planet because he'd gotten a lead or whatever, and then you end up on chapter 11 as basically being the first episode of the season. You're right. This definitely could have been that. I mean, I think episode 10, if you're going to say an episode was a filler episode, chapter 10 was the chapter that was the most filler. That would be the Ice Spiders one, you know, if you guys are remembering. Just because it was completely in between what was already kind of a side quest. It was just a little pit stop along their side quest.
Yeah, they could have easily started with this episode and been like, hey, I got a tip on this planet, or they had to go repair a ship or something. Done. This should have been episode 1, I think, of this season.
You make a good point, and it's a good argument. Let us know in the comments, guys, what you think about this, as these episodes being kind of called filler. Do you think that's bullshit? Do you think that's just the pace that comes with a TV show? Or do you think they are, in fact, just filler and you'd like to see it push forward? I'm not in any rush, personally. I'm not in any rush for this show to conclude. But I agree with you that there needs to be something happening that is moving these characters along. Chapter 11 gave us that. Any negatives for you, Chris, for Chapter 11 before we wrap it up?
Sabine. I'm assuming that Sabine, she barely said anything, but this is a major character in the series. Didn't talk. She ate a worm. That's it. We didn't really get anything from her. And it also doesn't look much like her now. I understand that she's an adult now versus a few years ago when the series takes place, the animated series, and she was like a 16 or 17-year-old girl, but she had colored hair. I feel like her personality is not reflected correctly, but we also don't know her yet. So I'm interested to see where this character is going to go, because I'm 99% sure it's her, because Sabine is known for being into art and graffiti, and she graffitied the shit out of her stuff, and you saw the helmet was covered in art. So I'm pretty sure that's her. It's the same helmet, same armor, and everything. Doesn't look like her, doesn't feel like her. So I'm a little disappointed there, but it's one episode in. I'd like to get to know her a little more and see what's going on there. I think she probably dyed her hair or stopped coloring it in order to hide better. I don't know. I'm pretty pumped. I like this episode. And if I remember correctly, this episode, when it came out, had 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah, I haven't really been looking up these individual chapters, Rotten Tomatoes reviews, but I believe that this would be higher because it's really giving something to the true Star Wars fans out there. You know, it's maybe not the most action-packed episode, but what it does provide to you is something serious. Also, the little tadpole baby that popped out of that egg was like the cutest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was.
If this video gets 100 views, I will tattoo that frog baby on my ass. I will do it.
You heard it here.
You heard it here first. I will literally do it and post it on Instagram. That's it, man. I mean, there's a lot of lore in this one, guys. Leave a comment down below. I know we're missing something. There's small things here and there that need to be talked about. Again, sorry that we're a little behind on this. Our Chapter 9 and 10, our video files got corrupted. The whole thing was screwed up. So we're going to jump in at Chapter 11. We'll be giving you one of these every week. So if you like these, give a thumbs up, shorter video. If you hate them, thumbs down. Fair is fair. If this happens to be your first time seeing Critic and the Common Man, we really appreciate it. Check us out on Instagram at Critic and the Common Man. The link's I think, in the description down below. All right, Chris, let's helmet up, man, and get out of here. Put on your Mandalorian helmet. This is nice. This is the way.
This is the way.
All right, guys. Leave a comment down below. Let us know what you think. Critic and the Common Man, The Mandalorian, Chapter 11, The Heiress. Cannot wait for Chapter 12. All right, guys. We're out of here.